With me is Douglas McWilliams, CEO of the CEBR. Thank you so much, Douglas, for coming in. In terms of Italy, there's so much concern out there because actually the markets have now honed in. But we've always had, I'm Italian, so I say we, there's always been a huge deficit in Italy which has been dealt with. What has changed in the last 2 months that makes the market so fearful?
Well, I think what's changed is that people have started to focus on the growth rate. Of course, we've got GDP data coming out today, which is going to draw even more attention to that. And part of the problem has been in the past, what used to happen was Italy would get uncompetitive, the lira would be devalued, and then everything would be okay again for a while, and then the whole process would repeat itself. In the euro, gradually, a lot of Italian export markets have got closed up. Now Italy is quite expensive. The main exports are luxury goods. Now they're still doing very well, but exports of white goods, exports of clothing and so on have completely disappeared. And
because
the result
costs
of that,
have been going up.
Because they're too expensive, and they're competing with the Chinese. And so as a result, the economy has stopped growing. And when an economy is not growing, it's very, very difficult to get out of a debt problem.
But the manufacturing base, Douglas, is still there. We still have a lot of family-run companies that are actually doing quite well, and manufacturing, which in other European countries is practically non-existent.
It's a mix. There are some firms that are doing absolutely brilliantly, and some of the very high-tech goods and the highly luxurious things, the Pradas, the Guccis and things like that, they're doing really well. And of course, the world's super rich go and buy these things in massive quantities. But what used to be the sort of base of the Italian economy was quite a lot of production of cheap goods, small cars, white goods, clothing, that kind of thing. That is being wiped out by competition from the Far East, where costs are very much lower.
But so the problem with Italy now, of course, is a lot of bureaucracy, is again this very sluggish growth because it's losing its manufacturing base. But what about the political class? Because we can't forget, Mr. Berlusconi just yesterday saying to Italians, well, guys, don't worry about it, we'll be fine. That's not helpful, is it?
Unfortunately, he has the wrong manner. He doesn't give the impression that he's fully focused on the economic job. He gives the impression that he's got other interests at heart. And that's unfortunate. The other thing is that although at some point I suspect his time's going to be up, he is quite an old man.
Well, we've been saying that for a while.
Yeah, but, eventually. Time and effort and whatever must weigh you down a bit. But the alternatives to him don't look that particularly promising. And that's, I think, one of the real reasons why people are worried about Italy.
And so what happens? You expect actually the country to default before Spain. Are we talking in the next 6 months? And does it have to do with contagion? Or do you really believe that it has to do with what Italy is doing and not doing, which is basically losing its manufacturing? Because it can't compete with China. You're absolutely right.
I think the problem is that they're not taking the right structural measures to make the country reform itself. If they did, there are a lot of very bright, talented people, I have to say. A lot of them working over here in London. But it's not creating jobs for the young people. So you've got these bright Italian people going around the world and not working in Italy.
So if you have a reform of the labour markets, making it more flexible, and if you have an austerity measure to cut the deficit in the next 6 months, can Italy avoid a default?
The maths are difficult because we're now in a situation where the problems are so entrenched that you're talking about a 5 to 10 year horizon before you can really turn the thing around. And by then, I think that the past will have been sold. And
so for sure default in your mind?
Unless the Germans bail them out. But I think the Germans now, the current generation of Germans, what they've done is they paid for East Germany. They paid to make themselves competitive when they went into the euro. And now the idea of bailing out major current countries is a bit tough for them. And I'd be surprised if they're prepared to do so. But if they can, obviously they can solve the problem.
All right. Let's hope they can solve the problem. Douglas, thank you. Douglas McWilliams there.